Thank you. Thank you all for being here. Celebrating one of my, well, it's kind of hard getting up front talking to all you people, but it's a special occasion, and thinking back about my good friend and my shared stage side. Cliff and I shared the same side of the stage. I'm Mike Overton. I'm the founding member of Trauma. I was the rhythm guitarist. To the left of me is George Tiger Lady, the lead guitar player, and our drummer Dennis Schaefer, the original Trauma drummer, and this guy right here, Mr. Steve Gately, did everything for us. Hauled equipment, did whatever we need, drove us from the gigs. I remember, I'll start with the first one, especially with Steve. When we were leaving the Whiskey A Go-Go, and we played the Whiskey A Go-Go, it was really kind of a cool show we were playing, and I think Motley Crue was playing on the other side of town or something, or some other band, Rat maybe. So, you know, it wasn't that crowded, and it was, but we're sitting there playing, and one thing about Cliff that was really instilled in me is that once you hit that stage, you're going to give it the best, no matter if there's one person in that crowd, there's 0 people in that crowd, or there's 2,000 people in that crowd, or 10,000 people. You're going to get up there and play your best. And that's one thing that I've taken to heart with me the rest of my playing career and playing now, is that once I hit that stage, I'm going to do my best and play my best. And I was so we're at the, get to that, we're at the Whiskey. I think there's like 20 people, 30 people there. And we're doing, and Cliff is up there just jamming away. We're having a great show. We're playing, and there's this one girl that comes up and sitting there right in front of Cliff the whole time. And she's spitting cherries at him. It's like, what the heck is going on? So I guess because he was banging his head so much and everything, she was trying to get his attention to look her way, I guess, you know? So it was just kind of sitting there, I'm looking at it, I'm trying to concentrate on my playing, and then this girl just trying to grab Cliff's attention. But he sat there until he just kept playing, and these little cherries are dropping down on the stage, and I'm just like, what the heck is going on? But that was one thing about Cliff. He went out there and he was performing so well. It was just, he was a focal point, and I'm sitting there, and she was just enthralled with his playing and with what he was doing. And she just wanted him to acknowledge her. So that was interesting. And then we tried to leave the place, and our manager at the time, we're tired, we're all packed in a van, and Steve's trying to drive us out of LA. And Cliff and I are packed in the back. I think I'm wrapped around a spare tire or something in the back, because we have one van. And so our manager's telling us, go this way, and Cliff and I are just swearing at him, you don't know what you're doing, you know, stuff like that. And the other guys are sleeping, and then finally I get up, I said, Steve, listen to me, we'll get ourselves out of LA. We got ourselves out of LA and made it out of there. So that's a quick little story, but it reminded me of that girl that came up to Cliff during the whole show, just stood there and tried to get his attention. And as you know, now, you know, when he hit the stage, he commanded, he got attention. And that's because he was an awesome guy, and he played hard every time he got on that stage, and even, you know, till the last show. So I know this is kind of rambling because wasn't kind of prepared to do this, but and then just something to finish before I pass it over to George is. We were sharing at the rehearsal spot in Hayward. I don't know if any of you remember that place. It was a practice facility over off of Clawwitter. And Trauma at that time was in one room, and Metallica was in the other room. And they had moved in, and it gave me an opportunity to hang out with Cliff when they weren't rehearsing. He'd come over, watch our rehearsals, then we'd hang out, we'd go have. But it was the last thing that I remember is I had shared something with Cliff. I took him fishing one time up to Lake Chabot up over here, and we had the greatest time together. And so we had talked about that, and when he got on that tour bus to head out for their tour and then head over to Europe, our game plan was when he came back that we would go fishing up at Lake Chabot again together. So we never got to share that again. But I got to share that one time together, hanging out with them. And maybe one day when I get up there, up in heaven, because God's getting bass lessons right now. When I get up there, maybe we'll have a chance to go fishing at one of the lakes up there. And so he's really missed. I really miss him. He was a person that was transparent, a person that was real. And a lot of you know that. I don't have to tell a lot of you people that, because he would always open his hand to shake your hand. He would always say hello. He would always recognize you no matter what when you were in the room and you came up to talk to him. He wasn't one of those guys that, I'm not going to talk to you. He would always recognize you. And you know, that's one thing about Cliff that's really important, especially nowadays, is to recognize each other and to give each other the chance to speak and to talk. And Cliff was one of those type of rare guys that would do that. So thank you for listening to me and bearing with me trying to get through this.
Hi, I'm George. I knew Cliff for a long time during high school, so we would jam, do kegger parties together and all that weird stuff. Met him through Jim Schaefer. I don't know if he's here. Drummer guy. He was a drummer guy. Good drummer, actually. So me, Jim, and Cliff, we did all the kegger parties in Hayward, Castro Valley and stuff. We had a good old time. Met Mike when me and Cliff were playing at Judd's Barn down. It was Cole Canyon, right? Yeah. Judd's Barn. Yeah, so we were jamming with guys and stuff, and Mike shows up. You had a half stack or something with you, right?
Oh yeah, carried it in my van all the time.
Yeah. So Cliff saw, who's this? I don't know, let's just let him jam. Let's jam with him. Huh?
Never left home without it.
One thing about Cliff I was always fascinated with was how he was fascinated with music, and pretty much the world around him. There's one time we were in Mike's van, I think we were going to record that first album thingy, and he's playing with my acoustic guitar and he's doing these open chords. And he looks at me and goes, I didn't know you could do that. What do you mean? Well, play a chord and have some of the strings open where you're not touching them on a fret. I go, well, sure, man, you're doing it. He was fascinated by that. He loved music, he loved theory. We would talk about music and theory. He was a little more into the theory than I was. But we got together and we would just talk, just weird melody and scales and stuff. Hey, what do you think of this? What about that? And just an amazing guy to hang around with. Good friend, nicest guy I ever met, you guys know that. Funny, weird stories, not many, not any I can really, there's one, but I ain't gonna mention it. I don't want to embarrass the guy or me, but yeah, we had a great time together. He was a great guy to be with. Thanks.
My name's Steve Gately. I met these guys, met George. I worked in a motorcycle shop on East 14th across from where the studio was, which was Champion Radiator. That's where Trauma jammed at. And he invited me over. And I had a pickup truck, right? So that's how I ended up hanging out with these guys. Yep. And it turned into the Trauma truck. And we did a lot of traveling together. We had just a blast. I mean, going to LA all the time, being in vans, and spent a lot of time with all these guys, spent a lot of time with Cliff, you know. And one time we were coming back from Southern California, and Cliff and I were in the back of your Dodge van, at the back. We were behind amps. If somebody would have rear-ended us, you know. But we were riding back there, and he pulled out a tape. And he said, these guys gave me this tape. And he handed me this tape with Metallica written on it, and said, you have that tape player? And I said, yeah. And we listened to it. That was the first time he heard Metallica. Not long after that, Cliff's car was a piece of junk. He had that Volkswagen station wagon. And it was green. And he called me, and I think it was like a Thursday night, and he said, hey man, would you want to go over to San Francisco and listen to that band? Because they're going to drive up here so I can check them out. So he and I had a chance to drive to the city together, and I think it was in like a comedy club or something. There was like 5 people there. It was the first time they played, and they did it so he could see them. It was amazing to be there and see that. But on the way over, the funniest thing happened. I had a nice truck, and I just had this great stereo put in it. And I'm like, yeah, you got to check out my system. So I threw in a tape, and it happened to be Van Halen. And I'm cranking it up, like, yeah, I got separates over here and the subwoofer and everything, and I'm telling him, and he's just staring at the deck with this look on his face. Meaning, Cliff, it's just, yeah. And I'm like, what's wrong? I'm thinking, you didn't like my stereo, and he's like, hey man, it's your stereo, you play what you want in there. And I was like, I realized that point, his disdain for Van Halen. But it was incredible to be able to spend time with all these guys and with Cliff, and he was definitely very special. I'll never forget that, ever. So, thanks for letting me say that.
How you doing? First of all, I just want to share some times I used to spend with Cliff Burton. I probably knew him the least of anybody in the band. I joined Trauma, and I played with them for a couple of years, and I was probably the last added element besides a singer. And remember him playing in George's Body Shop was our studio on East 14th across the street from Doucette's Lounge. And every night, Cliff and I, we'd go to the liquor store next door that had 352 different beers, different bottles of beers, and I would take him in there and I would buy that man a beer every night. And every night we went to practice, it was a different beer. We never had the same beer twice, and we never did get to all of them because we ended up changing studios at that time.
Right before I came here tonight, I went there and bought a beer.
Did you? That place is still there. Yeah, I do remember that. And bringing back to one of the shows we did, I know, Mike, you're gonna remember this. Remember playing the Troubadour?
Oh boy.
Yeah. That was one hell of a show right there.
Saved his life that night.
That was, I think that was within the same week. I'm not sure. Timeline is when Lars and them actually saw Cliff and wanted to steal him from our band. Lord have mercy. But bad for us, good for Metallica, because they scored. Metallica scored. But I remember that night clearly because somebody was chasing Cliff out of that club that night. He ended up with somebody's girl that, and me and Mike had to stand up and push these guys away and say, hey man, get the hell out of here, man.
Yeah, remember? I'll go across the street and get Cliff. You watch these guys.
Yes,
Protect him.
I do remember that, and those are some of my fondest memories. And I remember playing with Cliff Burton at a party up on D Street, was it?
Sounds like one of the streets.
Well, so it was right up before Kelly. No, it wasn't B Street. It was D Street, right up before the Big Ben. And that's when I first met you guys.
What's his name's house? Mike Frick's house.
Yes. That was the first night I ever met Cliff, and we saw this guy. And I didn't even see his face first night I met him. All I saw was this big ring of red hair. It's like, man, this guy can play that bass. I didn't even recognize him next time I saw him because the second time I saw him, I actually saw his face. You know, he's always about the hair. And believe it or not, I must have up to 200 pictures at home, and half of them that I have, they're all personal pictures that we took on the road that friends of mine or family took of Trauma, and half of them is a big red blur of hair. And I wish I'd have brought a photo album. I wasn't really prepared to do it, but maybe next year when we have this somewhere, I'm gonna bring a photo album of Trauma, and I've got so many pictures of Cliff that are uncirculated that nobody here's ever seen unless my wife here. She's been posting some lately, and she's been posting some black and whites on Facebook. They were behind the Hayward Plunge when we played the Hayward Plunge. We were all just kids, man. We were all just kids. Those all came from my personal collection. And I've got tons more that I wish to share with everybody. And maybe next time we all get together, I'll be passing around a photo album. We can all share pictures of Cliff before he joined Metallica. I wish I had more of him in Metallica, but unfortunately, when Cliff left Trauma, so did I. And I went my way, he went his way, and you know, I still play today. I got things going on, and may Cliff rest in peace, because I do miss him. He's one of the most extraordinary bass players I've ever met in my entire life, and I've played with quite a few musicians in my life, and no one can hold a candle to Cliff Burton. Let me tell you that right now. No one. Thank you very much.
All right, guys, let's give it up for Trauma. Hey, so my name is Nicholas Gomez, and I'm one of the organizers of this event. This kind of idea started because, I mean, how many people in here, their hero is Cliff Burton? Show of hands. So that's every single person in this room. That's very cool. I'm from Castro Valley. I was born and raised here, and you know, being from Castro Valley, it's really cool walking down the street and knowing that Cliff Burton walked down the same street, going to junior high, going to high school, knowing that Cliff went to the same school. So he's pretty much not molded my life, but infected my life in a good way to always pursue my dreams, because what Cliff Burton did for me is, if that young kid from Castro Valley can do it, I can do it too. I know many of you here have the exact same feeling and sentiment about Cliff Burton. So real fast, I want to say thank you, Ray, for creating such an amazing man. Ray and Jan, thank you very much. Ray Burton, everybody. We have so many people in this room that can share amazing stories. I see a lot of good bands out there too. I could call you guys out that who's gonna be next to come up. And I also know a bunch of random people in here too, so I'm gonna just pick someone at random. Connie Burton. Cliff Burton's sister, everybody.
Hi, everybody. Everybody having a good time? My name is Connie Burton, and I'm Cliff's older sister. And I just want to honor him. This is his day, his birthday. And so many years ago, on this day, a virtuoso, a true prodigy in life, which we see very seldom, was born, thanks to my dad and my mother, who is no longer with us. But I just want to share the story I shared last year, and I'm going to share it again. It's my Ride the Lightning story, okay? And for those of you who heard there last year, you heard it, but I've just got to share it again. It was a very rainy night, very windy night. It was a storm out, and I had come home from partying, and Cliff was up, and he was watching his Monty Python and Billy Graham. It was about 3:30 in the morning, and it was lightning and everything out, and he says to me, "Connie, come on, you got to come with me. I need to show you something." And I'm like, no, you know, this storming out there, Cliff. Let's not go anywhere in the car, right? Lightning and everything. No, thank you. No, Connie, you gotta go with me. You gotta come with me. I gotta show you this. So we went up to Palmares Canyon, out in the canyon. And we're in the Grasshopper, his Volkswagen station wagon, with his steering wheel duct taped to the steering column, okay? And it still went, and it still drove. And we get up there, and he parks. He says, "Come on, it'll be okay. Bring a joint of beer, and it'll be all right. Come on, I got to show you this." So we end up parking, and there's these trees all over the place. All right, trees, lightning hitting these trees. Okay, right there right there where you guys are, right? And I'm sitting there in the car like this. Cliff, take me home. Cliff, take me home. Right? I'm out of here. And he goes, "No, this is it, Connie. This is the ultimate, you know, Mother Nature, right?" And I was scared out of my gourd, okay? I was scared we were going to get struck by lightning. But we did not, and we had a great time and ended back home safely. And it was a lot of fun. That's my Ride the Lightning story. And I just want to say something real quick. You know, on this day in history, Cliff was born, and to all of us, the millions and millions of people throughout the world that he has touched and influenced in such a grand way, to inspire them, to influence them towards something that is positive in this world. The morals and the values that my brother brought with him as the man that he was, that he turned out to be, is an example for all of us in love and dignity and respect to carry ourselves in this world and to spread it around. To spread it around, spread it around, spread it around. Thank you, let me share. Have a good one. Dad, this is my dad, Ray Burton. This is Cliff Burton's dad. Yeah, big hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Good. I got kind of arthritis in my shoulder. I can't have two arms hugged, so I just hug with one arm.
Okay. You want to warm it?
No, this is fine.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Connie, for the nice things you've said about old Clifford Lee Burton. But I want to, first of all, thank the Alameda County Board of Supervisors for having this proclamation for a person so dear to all of us. Cliff was an exceptional child, right? It almost seemed from the time he was born. He just, I've thought over the years, I cannot remember Cliff crying for anything. When he was, I think he was about 2 years old, wasn't he, Connie, where we had to put the stirrups on his legs because his both his feet were toeing in abnormally. And here, every night, Jan and I would get him in the bed, and then we'd get the stirrup thing, and he never cried, he'd kind of look at us and say, oh Christ, there, I gotta do this again. And he just took it without any back talk or crying to try to get out of it. I guess he kind of looked at his mother and me as trying to help him. And I'm going to sit down. Is that all right? Okay. Well, secondly, after the Board of Supervisors, I think that's what they call them in Alameda County, the proclamation, which is. Now, where am I going to put that? Okay. So, anyway, it's been quite some time since I've visited Castro Valley, but I want to tell you that it was the years that I lived here were very nice, good memories. And particularly good memories of the kids that Cliff and Connie and Scott came in touch with. They it was a great relationship that all three of them had with some very, I thought, funny kids. Without trying to be funny, to me they were funny. So. Okay, what was it? There was something I was going to say. I'll hopefully think of things. Thirdly, I want to thank all of you for showing up here. Cliff would be absolutely his humility would show up, and he had a like for human beings. He was a very smart kid. Cliff, it appeared to me anyway that he really didn't have to study all that much. He was one of those kids that didn't crack a book all that much, yet he never came out with bad grades from school, and it was such a pleasure. And if we could all have a child that was as good and nice and considerate as Cliff was. And oh, I know what I was wanting to tell. One of the, I don't know if it was Mike or who mentioned the car, his Volkswagen. Well, now Scott was he could take, he had a little 125 cc's motorcycle, and he could take that damn thing apart and put it back together and just go putting down the road in it. And Cliff didn't know a spark plug from an exhaust pipe. And yet he knew, he learned enough about that doggone Volkswagen that he would be driving on the freeway, and there's a pipe of some type that would come loose, and Cliff would pull over to the side of the freeway and hop out and get it underneath the car and put the plug, whatever the damn thing was. And anyway, I thought, gee, evidently Cliff has some mechanical brains about something, because he never was all that interested in the mechanics that Scott showed. I'll swear, if Scott had lived, he would have become a mechanic of some type. And but anyway, it was nice to hear the stories of Trauma and their ventures down to Southern Cal, because Cliff, he wanted to be with a group that was a little wilder than Trauma was. Although he thought that Trauma was, every one of you guys were great. And but he just he almost preferred jamming all the time, and that is something like heavy metal. It's almost, to me, almost a jam all the time. And that's just the kind of music he liked, and so he pursued it. When the offer came up, he heard what do they call them, demonstrations or demos of Trauma, not Trauma, but Metallica. He liked it, and then he, I guess it was about 2 months, at least 2 months, that I'd come home from work, and Cliff would be on the phone. And so one day I asked Jan, I said, well, who the hell is he talking to so much? And he says, oh, there's a band down in Southern California called Metallica that wants him to join them. And they want, Jan was telling me this, they wanted Cliff to move to Southern California, where they were from. And Cliff says, no way, I will join you guys if you come up here, move north. And so, by gosh, lock, stock, and barrel, they came up here, and they've been a San Francisco band ever since. But it was really, and so I thought that was pretty good, that he was a good enough bassist that those kids would uproot themselves from their surroundings and where they all grew up, and moved north to Northern California. And anyway, then there's some great stories that I have to think about pretty hard, but there's some great stories that Cliff would come, and pictures. They had a lot of pictures. And so anyway, Cliff just started playing with the band, and as you all know, the history of Metallica. And over the years, through going to venues with Metallica playing and talking to people, that I realized how much of an influence that Cliff had on Metallica. Just huge. And it almost seems like it gets, the longer that the time gets from his death, these young people, just 10, 11 years old, will come up to me at venues and say how much they liked Cliff and how much he influenced them. And boy, well, that's really a feather in Metallica's hat. But there's one thing that I cannot go with without telling you, that the major influence and help that from our family came from Jan. Jan was one, she never pushed, we never pushed Cliff to do anything. We didn't have to tell him to practice. He just wanted to do what he knew he wanted to do, and that is play the bass guitar. And the good point is he wanted to play it the way it sounded great to him. It sounded good to him. And by gosh, that kid went down the road that way and just made 3 fantastic recordings with Metallica. And Metallica, the kids, I call them kids, my God, they're late 50s. But I guess that's one of the privileges of age. You can call the younger people kids their whole life. What do you mean? I'm 70 some odd years old, man. Anyway, I attribute an awful lot of success with Scott and Cliff music, I should say, is how much Jan was the main emphasis on Cliff, and he came to us one time and said, "Mom and Dad, can you help me for 5 years? Help me when I need money or food or whatever. And if I haven't, if this band Metallica, if we haven't made it," he says, "then I will become a studio musician." And that statement right there told me just how much Cliff felt about his own ability. Even though he had a lot of humility, he emphasized that he wasn't as good as others, yet he knew he was good. When you know that when you can be a studio musician, you're pretty cotton-picking good. And Cliff was. And it really shows over time. And I see little snippets of him playing, and he's pretty dang good. I agree with your applause. So if maybe I should kind of say, anybody want to have any questions that I might hopefully answer? If not, that's quite all right. But if so, who we got? Yeah.
What happened to Cliff's basses?
His basses? Well, Jan and I, when Cliff died, we neither one of us wanted to really hold on to things. He had about 7 or 8 bass guitars. And Jan gave them to kids, some here in Castro Valley. They were, and that's a good story I should tell you about Aria, the bass guitar that they sent a bass guitar to Cliff. It arrived. We lived just up the street on Stanton, and they sent him a brand new bass guitar, and they said, "Oh, there it is. Oh, I recognize it."
We're going to talk about it when we're there for it.
Oh, okay. Anyway, they gave, sent it to Cliff, and they said, we'll only charge you $250 for this. And so anyway, we were saying something about, well, you need the money to pay for it. And he says, I'm not going to send them any money. They're getting a lot of free advertisement. He said, I'm just going to keep it. They sent it to me. Well, as it turned out, there were 6 or 7 bass guitars Aria sent Cliff. And so he had, when he died, he had quite a few of them. And Jan and I just didn't, we had no use for them because neither she nor I were musical oriented, except to listen. Jan was a great fan of opera, and I think kind of some of that stuff might have rubbed off on Cliff. But yeah, Mike.
Tell them where the Rickenbacker is. That's the most famous.
Oh, the Rickenbacker. Okay, the one just like that one over there.
That's the most famous one, right?
Yeah, that is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland, Ohio, and it is who in the heck they have it in right next to some great guitars. Do you know? We Casey has I think a picture of it. Somebody sent her from Cleveland. But anyway, that's where it is, and it's not too far from Janis Joplin's Porsche car that she had. And so anyway, that kind of shows how they continue to have his bass guitar on display there. And he liked, as far as guitars go, he liked the Rickenbacker the best. But he says is not the kind of guitar. It's not sturdy enough, not strong enough to take on tour. He was I think beginning to kind of worry that it was the Rickenbacker was going to give out someday. And so these sturdy little guys came along, and that's another story, boy. They went over to Japan about 4 or 5 years ago, and went to their factory, and boy, that guitar, the electric guitar, is really custom made. They really do a wonderful job. And so if you want a good bass guitar, I know they're a little bit on the hefty side, money-wise, and but they're great if you're a musician. Rob Trujillo has one, and they were going to make a special Cliff Burton cheaper model that would only cost $1,500, and they only made one, and the reason for that is that Aria, the president, was into acoustical guitars, and so he just poo-pooed the electrical guitars. I think he was such a prude that he just. But anyway, going through the factory, the wood. You start out in one shed, and here's all of these different woods that they use on their guitars. And then you go to the next shed, and it shows a guy, or not shows, but a guy is working on starting to plane the wood and get it into shape. And really, boy, if you've heard of custom cars and that, well, custom guitars are, they can really do a good job, except they have that president. So anyway.
Really, Ray, I want to finish telling the second half of that story. Ray didn't give you the whole story. So Ray and I took the trip to Japan together. And when we went to Japan, when Cliff had died, in Sweden. The next leg of the tour was supposed to be Japan. So Ray and I ended up going through this factory, and there are literally probably 150 people that touched this guitar in order to make it. Well, a lot of those people actually had tickets for the show. And Ray took the time with every single one of them that had tickets. Ray signed the tickets for them, took pictures with them, and just showed everybody in that factory a lot of love. So, that's not the best part of the story. So the best part of the story is Aria continued to send Cliff bass guitars, right? And he took the first one and he asked Ray whether or not he should pay for it. He said, you know, Aria's getting a lot of free advertising out of this, so Cliff never paid for the guitar. He never did. And then when they sent him the second one, he decided, well, they're going to send me more. I guess I really don't have to pay for the guitar, right? But when Ray and I went back to Japan, we wanted to make sure that the slate was clean for Cliff, right? So Ray actually paid the $250 to the president of Aria Guitars. Right, Ray? And then, hey, Connie, do you want to come up here and tell the story about your guitar? Since we're talking about bass guitars.
Me?
Yeah. Is there another Connie Burton in the room that I seem to be missing here?
Okay.
Here. No. We're all good.
Okay. All right. I have Cliff's original bass, Aria black bass, and it still has in the back of it, it is soldered together where he pounding on it so hard, broke it and cracked it in the back. And he asked the guy once again at Rick's All Music, do you think you can fix this? And he's like, oh, Cliff. You know, first you asked him to put a lead pickup in a bass guitar, and now you want me to solder together your bass after you've broken it. Well, I don't know if it'll work. I don't know if it'll work afterwards, but we'll try it and go ahead and see. So he soldered it together, and it worked fine. And I still have that. That's the one that was sent back with his body. Has handcuffs on the case and everything. And then I also have his Aria guitar, that he used. And I'll tell you a story about that. His Aria guitar. He started out using the Aria guitar in his bedroom, and a lot of the music that Cliff composed, you know, had so much guitar in it. That's why they called him the bass player, right? And this Aria guitar that I have is the one that he used to compose his music, and that he didn't play the guitar on stage, so that was his kind of at home bass, or guitar, I should say. And I don't know what else to say about it other than it's just grand honor to be able to be a steward for such important instruments. And my brother was an important instrument of God in himself, by himself.
Trying to think of little stories of Cliff. Oh, I know one. When I would come home from work, and I would get off of the bus right there where Stanton meets Castro Valley Boulevard, and I would be walking up to our apartment house, and Cliff's bedroom had a great big window facing the street, and he had a lamp, and he had it situated so that while he was playing, there was a silhouette from the window with the curtain down, but it showed this, his body, well, you know what I mean. Silhouette, that's it. So, anyway, here would be old Cliff pounding, rocking his head and so forth, practicing the movements, not only playing the guitar, but playing with a certain flair, which I considered Cliff's idea of showmanship. And that was one of the things that is well practiced, and yet it blended right in with his playing of the guitar. He was very conscientious about his guitar playing, and it just showed that